So to start the meeting formally, let me proceed to show our antitrust policy notice. Here's the full antitrust policy slide with the full policy itself available on our website. If you're from a Linux Foundation member company, you can ask questions of our counsel, Andy Updegrove. Now, our agenda today is pretty straightforward. We have basically two items I wanted to put up. The first is about SPDX and how we can work with the SPDX community. They're doing some things around export control. Now, we had a meeting towards the end of last year where Matthew Crawford from the from OpenChain, but also part of the SPDX project, presented how they are looking at in SPDX, including some fields for export control. Now, that's an interesting idea. It's something that we haven't discussed in detail yet, but we got a presentation from Matthew to us about how that could work. And since we spoke, we've had a little more information from the SPDX team about what's going on. So one of the important points is probably that they are after launching a mailing list. This mailing list will be a space where you can find out more about what they're going to do. And that will be the next step for staying connected. I want to show you two things. First of all, I want to show you our previous recording. This is a screen share of the meeting of the export control work group in November, and the link is now in the chat, where Matthew talked about export control and how the SPDX project might be including that in a practical way in the future inside a version of their specification. The second thing I want to show you, and I will also share the link, this is probably the more important part, is that here is the new mailing list that SPDX has set up to discuss the profile where they're looking at including export control. So this is SPDX operations. It's a brand new list in that it's only got 6 members. So we're looking at the very beginning of something. But it may be a place for us to connect, at least a few of us, to be ready if they proceed to share notes with them, share ideas, and maybe share contributions. Okay, I'm going to go back to our slides. Oh, Nicola just posted something. I'm going to open Nicola's thing. This is a business profile schema. Okay. Oh, wonderful. A direct link here to the export control schema being proposed. This is excellent. Thank you, Nicola.
Shane, just an addition, I think this was also discussed during the meeting with Matthew and during the presentation, because this is when I grabbed the link, because I had a chat with them prior to this showcase via Marcel, and this is how I get this information. So basically, this is the profile that they sort of presented.
Absolutely. Matthew brought it up at the time. I think it might have progressed a little since then from what's on the screen. And
there is some progress. It was a way shorter schema at the time.
Perfect. What I've done, I mean, it's really useful that you bring that link back to us. I've put that link into our slides for this meeting. So they will now be easily accessible to everyone in the future. I'm just going to move back to my slide. So yeah, I've added the schema right here so people can jump in and contribute. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on this particular development of an export control schema, potentially in a new profile for operations in SPDX?
I can add my my impression
Your
because
impression is good.
yeah. Uh, Generally, what we think about this profile is implementing this in our automated tool chain. So basically, to include or probably reuse this schema in a way to add this into our tool chain, so we can automate the export control. So we can actually have a catalog of the different components and the different basically an amalgamation of several different approaches, so to speak. So we can have a catalog of ECCNs, we can have a catalog of cryptography data, and basically to use this in a way to automate our tool chain. At least that's what we aim for 2024 with this particular thing. And Marcel being part of our team and being part of the development of this, we have like a first-hand approach, so to speak, into the development of this profile and how it would work. So I think it's great, generally speaking.
That is good feedback. And I'm glad to have you crossing the bridge between their active work and our work so we can keep up to sync. I noticed we had a couple of people dial in, so I'm just going to repost the links. We're talking about the first item, so we're talking about SPDX and a potential profile that will potentially include export control. We previously had a call with a presentation with some information about that. The links include that call, what they're proposing, and the SPDX mailing list for this topic. So let's see if we can get a few more eyes on that. And just to reshare the schema, it looks something like this. That's what they're proposing, and to have various tags for export control like these, which may help solve some of the challenges people have had in the past, I guess. And we should definitely look at it, interacting with them and providing our feedback. All right, this will be an ongoing project in that SPDX is an implementation item. So if they're doing export control and implementing it in a bill of materials, there's still the open question about the larger process management. So export control in a bill of materials is a how. How do we record export control information? Oh, we can do it in bill of materials. But then the larger what, how do we address export control information in business processes? The what is our domain. And we should consider if they're going ahead with an implementation item covering open source and export control, is there something we can do on the higher level, the business process front, to support them, as well as directly contributing to their implementation discussion? So to reiterate, we always, as a project, focus on the very high level. Our job is to help people create business processes. A software bill of materials is an implementation item inside the business process domain. So we should sync up closely with them, see if we can help on the implementation item, but also if we can provide notes from the higher level business process side of things. And if they go ahead and they release this, if it becomes part of their ISO standard, we should look at how we can provide reference material for business processes that might use this. We don't have to, but we should look at this because it is our area of expertise and we might be able to contribute. Okay, that is exciting. And their mailing list is a little bit lonely. 6 members. Why did anyone join yet? 7 members, someone joined.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
me. It doesn't appear to have any messages yet.
yeah, as far as I know, it's a newly formed group, so like a working group. So it's in development also.
Okay. I'm already registered? Okay, fine.
Then you're one of those 7 people already.
Am I?
It might be.
Maybe. I don't seem to be though. Oh, okay. Technology is strange. Yeah, this I think it's a bit like our group for what do you call it? Our group for AI, which is just starting and it's just getting ready. I'm going to subscribe to this, and there we go. AI just has, I think, one message on it right now, and later today it'll have the second one scheduling the next call. I think they're at the same very early start point. But if their group builds momentum, that's great. If it doesn't and the idea doesn't go forward, that's also fine. The important point is really that the discussion is underway, and we should definitely be aware of it. And maybe we can contribute. Right. The next part of our call, going back to my slides, is all about the crypto law review book editing activity. It seems to have stalled out. So for those who are new, this group started looking at an online resource, an old web page, 10 years out of date. And the author said that web page could be moved to GitHub. So we had volunteers from here set up a new little project online. The project is separate from OpenChain, but it's a little project online to work on that. And you can see the project at the link I've just put into the chat. And you can see that the project has various open issues at the second link I put into the chat. And if you go to the first link, what you'll see is the little survey website explaining what it is. And then the second link will, when we go to the repository, it'll show you the open issues. And there's quite a few open issues, but if you look at the dates, you'll see that the issues basically stopped being developed last August. So the question is, what do we do here? And the floor is open. What do you think we should do as members of this export control work group?
So, speaking as somebody who was very keen to get this whole activity started and volunteering to do various issues, I've just been completely swamped. It's been several months now in a row where I've apologized for getting absolutely nothing done in this area, and I have no idea how to improve that since I have no time for doing my regular day job as it is.
All right, I think that's a very valid stance. This is one of those activities where it's very good and useful, but it's not a burning building situation. Nicola just flagged that he's got some bureaucracy. He's got a contribution, but it's still under approval for
Yeah, we
transfer.
discussed that during not the previous meeting, because the previous meeting in December was quite short. I remember you weren't present even in December, but I think in November we discussed that I'll take over and add some information for the Bulgarian MD file, because I'm located in Sofia and well aware of the export control regulation because I did extensive research. But the point is that there is this approval process that's now it's going for a month and a half, and I still don't have the approval to actually push uh, my updated MD file, so to speak. So yeah, I'll keep you posted about this when it's done.
All right. No, I mean that happens. So we've got several other major contributors on the call. Is everyone here swamped at the moment? Is this something that you're not able to contribute to at this juncture? If everyone is overloaded at the moment and there's no sign of moving ahead, um, I think we then need to look at the issues that are assigned. For instance, we've got issues here assigned to Steve. He's too swamped to work on it. Julian's got an open issue here. Geese has an open issue here. Do we mark those issues as not going to be closed soon? People are busy. I think it would be good if we did something practical so people wouldn't think it's imminent that they'll be actioned if we know they won't.
Shane, in my particular case, my assignment was to check the markdown, and it was fine. I think we discussed in some past meeting that the format was fine. So I don't really have further actions there other than just closing the issues.
Okay, no,
there's done some exchange of with the Argentinian administration. Not much could be found out there, but the history should be in the issues.
No problem at all. What I'll do then is there's 3 open issues for you. I've just put them in to the chat. Do you want me to just go ahead and close them and say the markdown was reviewed?
Yes, please. I probably should have done that. Sorry for not acting.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I'm just going to close those right now. Yeah. Geese, do you want to jump in because your mic is okay, or will I just read out the...
Yeah. So as I said in the chat window, but now that I actually figured out why I couldn't turn on my microphone, just turn it on. I'm a bit of a complex situation at work right now, so I can't really spend too much time on this, which means also that I haven't been very present during the previous calls for that similar reason. I will work on these issues, eventually. It's just that I really don't know when right now. So if somebody actually wants to do that, fine. But if not, I will do that at some point.
Well, in that case, I'll just flag that. Well, I just flagged that the review is open on these issues. So I'll take it off your hands and you can jump in when you're ready. But I can just change the like the title. France.
Yeah, just France HTML to Markdown.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the moment you change that, I'll do it.
Okay.
Probably not.
Right. Switzerland HTML to Markdown. Well, I mean that I think is good. It just computers. This means that we're just updating where we're at on the system, and that will make sure that if people wander in, they have a clearer idea of what they can expect. And I'll also update my one. Steve, if it's okay, I'll move your one to pending and take your name off it so it's no longer a pressure point and you can come to it if you get time. Is that all right?
Sure, that's fine.
All right. Just to make sure it's not one of those things where it's like, we're still waiting for you. And that should mean then that we're getting clearer, and I'll close off my ones too. All right, so it sounds like we've got a couple of concrete action steps for this. I'll go back to Jimmy. Jimmy at Ericsson had mentioned he was going to see if the export control people could join the call. I'll go back to him and ask if they can look at the existing completed material. So we're looking, I think, then at the main agreements related to this topic. Let me just pull it up. What was it? The main agreements related to this topic. We had the Wassenaar agreement, was it? Yeah, Wassenaar agreement, which is here, which is an international agreement. And I'm not putting these links in, by the way, but I should, so I'll grab it now and do it. Here's the Wassenaar agreement. That's one of the main things. And we also said we'd get the EU. which is put into the chat as well. These are just two of the country items. So Wassenaar and EU, we previously spoke with Jimmy Alberg about having some of the people at Ericsson Export Control to have a look at this. So I'll take the action item to go do that. And then the next discussion after we have them have a look for this group will probably be to decide the priority of future activity. You know, what other countries should we do first? Should we do, for example, US, China, Japan, Korea? What's the priority we should have as we review the existing material? Now, some people might be completely new to this and be thinking, what is going on? So I'm going to go to the data, the countries data. This is the country by country information about export control. And a link just went into the chat. So if we pick out a country, I will pick out China. You can see, first of all, that this has got old HTML formatting that needs cleaning up. Second of all, you can see that there's a little bit of information about export control and domestic laws, but not much. So this is all from an old online book that ceased to be updated in 2013. And what we want to do is to have a look at this to check, oh, is this current or not? I'm just putting China into the chat as well in case people want to look at that. So there's basically two activities. The first one, which is in some ways the easiest, is to edit out some of the old like HTML bits. So I'm getting rid of that there. This is just an example. And by the way, I'm committing directly here to show you how to do this. It's not necessarily the best idea. But you know, to clean up the HTML, to make it proper markdown. And then when it's ready, and this looks pretty ready, we asked someone who might know export control in China to have a look at it and see if that's still current. You know, is it correct that the State Council Order 273 from October 1999 is the main thing to be thinking about? And maybe someone will say, no, there was something in 2019 that's the main thing to think about. So, you know, that's where we get someone to help us and review. Now, we have a really strong community in China, for example, so hopefully we might get some help there. And we have a ton of countries, so we have to decide the priority of which countries to go to. And we have not only countries, but for instance, we have Hong Kong, a special administrative region. That has roughly the same amount of data here as China. Is that still correct? And so on. So that's the future of this activity. Part one, we asked the Ericsson people to lend us a hand because they offered to, and they can look at the Wasserman agreement and the EU, because that's done. And then we have to decide, after Ericsson has a look, we have to decide the next countries for review priority and just clean up that markdown and then try to find experts who would know those countries and can lend us a hand. What do you think?
There's a couple of other activities that have been going on as well, or in theory have been going on. The second one is the list of crypto algorithms that Julian posted a couple of years ago. Those are listed in a different repo. So still under the Crypto Law Survey organization, but there's a different repo for them. We haven't done anything with that list yet, but we should formalize it somehow. And the third activity that I haven't made any progress on for a year now either is going through the country files looking for common elements that can be abstracted out. Since ideally what we'd like is for the country files to be roughly equivalent to licensed text and the algorithms to be equivalent to licensed families in terms of strength of algorithm. But by looking at the country text, the hope is that we can extract out common things similar to the way software licenses have common obligations and rights and so on. I
And
guess
so
I got
would
about
this
halfway
be-
through the countries and then ran out of steam.
would this in theory be then something like, oh, there's a common trigger that if you go to 192-bit asymmetric encryption, now you've got an export control law, and we find that's in 10 countries. So then we create a flag, and then people can automate, and they know, random example, China crossing 192-bit encryption flagged. There you go. Export control law applies. Check here for details.
That kind of thing, yes. And the suggestion was that we put that into the country files as metadata, and Jan was looking at taking the metadata from the country files and then using that to generate a world map coloring each of the countries according to different criteria.
That's cool. If we can get there. I'm trying to work out where Julian's survey is.
So if you go up to the higher level, it's in a different repository.
Yeah, it's in a different repo.
So not that repo, go up one level.
One
There you go.
more.
And then you can choose on repositories at the top or
Oh yeah. I should really know how to use GitHub at this day and age.
crypto
Oh,
algorithms.
like
There you go.
algorithms. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm gonna put this link into the chat for those following along. Oops, I broke it. Hang on, let's
And
refresh.
the idea behind that initial list, that is the list of algorithms we currently detect. I mean, it's an open source algorithm, and that includes definitions to detect the algorithms in code. And the idea was to provide an initial list so that people can start contributing, so that nobody has to do make the first step, and perhaps have companies adding algorithms and maybe adding comments on the classification of these algorithms. And this is maybe something that we might want to add to Jimmy's to-do list.
Yep. Got
If
it.
they are willing to contribute to this, that would be awesome. So I know that, I used to work with trade compliance at Ericsson, and I know that there's a much longer list of algorithms.
All right.
Every
Okay.
company has a list of algorithms and the classification, whether or not it's strong encryption and if it is standard cryptography. I mean, these fields are part of the rationale for the ECCN classification.
Absolutely. And this is where the country thing comes in. What triggers strong encryption? What doesn't? Yep.
Yep.
Oh, there's some old favorites here. I saw Whirlpool down here. That was created in the European Union, and it's quite unique because it has a sort of symmetrical structure. Anyway, distracted. Back to the point. I suggest that I open an issue where I will try, I'll add an issue, hopefully where we can get Jimmy's team to look at this too, but I have to add the issue in that repo. Okay, so we'd have to send them to that repo in particular. Oops.
I'm gonna have to apologize to Jimmy for throwing the to-do item at him. Maybe that's a price for not being here today.
Interestingly, it doesn't allow me to open an issue on this fork, or at least not visibly. Weird. Okay, I will just include this cryptographic algorithms item in the email to Jimmy, pinging him about his team. But I'll put the first priority on getting the Wasserman agreement and the EU reviewed by Ericsson Export Control. Okay, super cool. That is really useful. Thank you, Julian.
All
right,
since we have a couple of new members, are there questions? Because, like Shane said, if you haven't seen all this stuff before, you might be wondering what's going on.
That's true. And remember, no question is a bad question. We've been talking about this for a while, so it's perfectly normal to be a bit lost and to question every aspect of the motivation and rationale of what's going on here, or any part of it. It's not a coherent whole. This is a group of volunteers working on different items related to this because they're interested in it. Okay. If there's no question right now, you can always come back to us at any time. So what we have then is the crypto law survey stuff, the primary old repo, which is the old website, has various open issues. And we've tidied that up a little, and more tidying will come along. Inside that, the data from the old website has some parts with good progress. The EU and the Vastnar agreement are basically done. So now what we'll do in terms of formatting is done. What we'll do, needs a bit of fixing there, is we'll take those and ask the Ericsson export control team to have a look at them and see if the data is correct. Then we'll go back, we'll go through the rest of the countries in priority, choose which ones are most important, and then we'll get export control experts in those domains. For example, in China, this is a very tiny amount of export control information. So we'll probably immediately be able to say, can someone help us check if that's still current or not? And once we're beginning to have that information marked as current, let's say hypothetically, this is current or the EU one is current, then it's easier for people like Steve to pull out metadata and say, okay, according to this law here, then AES 256 is strong encryption. So if your open source includes that, make sure you're following that regulation, etc., etc. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you can review this recording and you can come back to this topic, and we will always be available too. So what we have then is we have this large resource we've been working on. It's stalled a bit, but we've at least temporarily got it moving again. And we also have the SPDX project doing practical work where they will want to put actual fields about export control into bill of materials through a new schema they're proposing. So that's what's on our radar. Is open source export control different now to 1 year ago? Absolutely. A year ago, we had just found this resource and people were negotiating, can that crypto lawbook material be put into GitHub? And we got the permission and a new project was set up. We didn't have SPDX saying, oh, we might do actual open source export control bill of materials. Everything's moving rapidly. Everything's getting tidied up and more formal. Obviously, there'll be stuff for us to track. Would it be useful on the next call if I ask for the SPDX team to give us a briefing on their current status so we can dig into their schema and maybe provide interactive feedback?
Sure, it'll stop the next call being empty apart from me saying I've done nothing.
Oh, it won't just be you. I'll also be saying I did nothing. So, okay. I'll see if
I
we can
just
get.
have a small comment on the second line. There's a typo. Maybe you want to correct that. The first letter should be a W
yeah.
instead of a D.
Today has been an incredible typo day. I've done it in several emails as well. I think I should just go back to bed. Thank you, Andreas. That's a good catch. Okay. So great. Hypothetically, looking at what we're seeing now, and it's only the 9th of January, if SPDX keeps up momentum on their export control work, and if we can actually get some of these old chapters signed off as still current on the higher level export control regulations, the middle part, the business operations part, will become more and more viable for us or other people to produce reference material, guidance material, support to bridge the gap between SPDX having fields and people thinking, yeah, but what do I do? What's the process around this? So we're getting a lot closer to that. When we started this group about a year ago, there was nothing anywhere about how to approach this. We didn't have any forum to discuss it. We didn't have any visibility of things like this crypto lore survey. It wasn't well advertised. So we have made progress. Well done, all. Let's see where we can take it next. Thank you and have a beautiful day. Talk to you next month. I'll talk to you by email much ahead of that.